Again, thank you for coming along. I think it's a great thing that Ubisoft are coming down here. I think it says a great deal about the local market and the quality of the talent. I think there's a huge amount that, just the quality of the speakers that can be learned here. And I think just personally speaking, there's a lot that I can learn from you as well. So I'm really pleased to be here. So just very quickly, my journey, I'm kind of kidding on here because it's actually 30 years I've been in the games industry. But it just makes me sound so old that I kind of tell lies and say it's only 20. I was a programmer when I was a kid because you had to program games rather than buying them, and set up a bunch of developers all the way through to running companies, selling companies, helping other companies. And then more recently, head of development over at Respawn in Los Angeles, which is, I think, by any measure, one of the most successful development companies in the world. And the obvious thing is I've seen and made every mistake in the book, but I've also seen what works, and that really is about what I'm going to talk about today. So hopefully this will trigger. Just to give a bit of a background, what I'm talking about here is not about console. It's about mobile, it's about console, it's about development. But just to give you a baseline, this is hopefully something to have a look at.
Riflemen to dropships. This is not a drill.
My name is Jack Cooper, and I'm no pilot. I was just in the right place at the wrong time. Sometimes you don't get to choose your path. It chooses you.
BT, transferring authorization to new pilot. I am now linked to Rifleman Jack Cooper.
But whether or not I was meant for this doesn't matter. Because now, we are all that stands between salvation and extinction.
Listen up. The IMC have developed a weapon. It has the power to destroy entire worlds. Stand by for Titanfall.
He was never meant to be my Titan. We're gonna make it out of this, BT. Hang in there.
Copy that, pilot.
And I never planned to be his pilot.
I will not lose another pilot.
BT!
Got you.
Don't worry, BT. I'm not going anywhere. Look out!
So it's not too bad. It's not too bad, it can be said. I think it's, if you look at some of the online reviews, it's one of the top 20 games on various platforms. It's actually 2 years old now, so some of the artwork and some of the production in that is actually 4 years old. So I'm hugely excited about what comes next. So if I can bring one of the things down, and really this is about what makes a good team a great team and what you can take from that. And one of the first lessons here is if you do the same thing over and over again, you get the same results. So when you look at your own teams and your own companies, and you get maybe good games, you're coming out with some solid work, but for some reason it's just not connecting. And this has nothing to do with console. It can be Clash Royale or mobile or any platform. There's something that teams do that is different. Shigeru Miyamoto from Nintendo has success after success after success. Blizzard have success after success. So there's something they're doing again and again that is slightly different from a company that just merely does good work. And the lesson to take from that is that if you can find out what that is, what the differences are, and try and bring that into your company, you can certainly get some of the same results. It's a lot of moving pieces. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but there are some very fundamental basics. If you get it right, you can get the same results. So again, as a baseline, what is AAA production? Is it a quality requirements document? No, because you've got one. And people only read it once, maybe twice if there's nice pictures. Is it the producer that makes a difference? It makes a difference, but it's not the key thing. A producer is just a person. Is it whatever the latest management fad is? And they're different for every kind of product you make. But again, you have the exact same ability to use a producer, use a quality targets document, same TDR, same approach to management that I have. So that doesn't make a difference. It's important, and it's important you apply it well, but it's not the key thing. And having market foresight and data and trying to find a niche in the market, again, is important, but it's not the key thing. So for me, production is people. It's not about documents or producers or all the things, including myself. It's about people. And production is the organized collective output from people, the organized creative output. But the word there is organized collective. And if you get the team right, they will make amazing products. What you see on the screen there with Titanfall is not down to an individual or a document or a production methodology. It's about decisions that people made within the team. So people in teams, what are they? People, your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother, your friend, people you see on television, they're all made up of characteristics and attributes. Some of them are here. You could add another 100 to this easily. Confidence, imagination, ego, moods, talent. Everybody's slightly different. And it's the same with a team. Teams have personalities. And that's one of the key differences between a good team and a great team. And the job of production, the job of management, is to get the right people in the right room to create the right magic. And if you get it wrong, your job in production is a babysitter, and hopefully it's more of a leader. So what makes AAA as a product? Same kind of question, is it the artwork? Because if you look at any console game, they all look absolutely incredible. The art looks incredible. So that's not what makes a AAA product. Is it the latest technology? You have access to the exact same tech that I have for almost next to nothing. You've got Unreal engines, Unity engines, Source engines. You can buy it off the shelf. So it's important that it looks good. It's important that it has good technology, but it's not a key difference. If you have a $50 million budget, I think Titanfall, it's no secret. It's about $100,000 a minute for the single-player campaign, which is a reasonable amount of money. But if you have the fundamentals wrong, all it means is you make $50 million worth of mistakes. So it's not the budget. And it's not the franchise. FIFA 55, if it sucks, nobody's going to buy FIFA 56. But it's important from a marketing point of view. And again, community momentum, one of the key takeaways for me from Call of Duty, some of which are better than others, some are great, some are average, is people buy it, partly because 10 of their friends have it. So again, it's important, but look at all the games that don't have that. So that's not the key. So for me, the difference in a AAA product is about tiny, tiny details. So this is where you need to look at mobile as well as console. If you look at Clash of Clans or Clash Royale, just look at the details between the screens. There's no flick, there's a transition. If you look at the particles, why have they got particles on confetti? Why have they got so many tiny details? That is the difference between a good product and a great product. And the quality, again, is not random. Those tiny details are not in a design document. They're not in the engine. They're not in the artwork. They're made by people. And it sounds so basic because you sort of turn up looking for the magic in a silver bullet. There is no silver bullet. It's the very basics of the team. So what does a pen have to do with game development? It has everything to do with game development. What I used to do with new people coming to the company, and this happens at other companies as well, is I would sit down to talk about the culture within the company. And to me, it's summed up in a Mont Blanc pen. So the economy here is money. So why would you pay $1,000 for a pen as opposed to steal one from the hotel here? Because the end result is the same thing. You write your name, you make a to-do list. The end result is the same, but why would you spend $1,000? And the details within that pen is why you would spend $1,000. The nib is designed to bend only 2 to 3%. It's a gold tip, so it lasts longer. The actual shell is made of a particular composite, so it feels lovely and nice in the hand. It's weighted perfectly. The band in the center on a screw Mont Blanc will always face exactly front when you close it. It's tiny details. The clip is a particular kind of silver that will last for eternity until the cockroaches run the world. You compare that with a $1 hotel pen, which is made of plastic. It's got printed logos on the side, sometimes squint, sometimes not. There's this random ink injected into it. And that's the exact same with games. If you've got two first-person shooters, in my world that I've just come from, what is the difference when the economy is time? The difference between two first-person shooters, they both look great, they both have good engines. Why would you spend 1,000 minutes? It's because of the tiny details that make that product stand out. That's what a AAA product is. It's tiny details. So where do details come from? As I said, they don't come from design documents. They come from the people on the team that make decisions. None of the little details on if you look at King or Supercell, none of those details are designed by a committee. It's the people on the team that make the difference. So team personality, what do I look at? If I sit down with a new team, if I work with a company, before I even look at the product, I will spend time talking to the individuals on the team. And the exact same thing I did with Respawn, which is I took everybody on the team and everybody on the team and had a chat for 2-3 hours just about life problems, challenges, what they think is working, what they think of the company, what they think could be done better, what makes the team magic in their eyes, what has to be fixed, what must be kept. It's all about working out the team personality, and if you can work that out within a production or management process, you'll get far more from that than any document that you can put together. And the team personality is the exact same thing as an individual. It's pride, ambition, ego, it's all these things. Ego, you'll find a team that has been around for a long time that's had a lot of success. They do think they're the best team in the world. They have that arrogance of success. They also have the fear on the back end of this, which is, we're very good, but are we going to be good 2 years from now when the game comes out, or 3 years from now? So it's always a balance. Uncertainty about whether the product's going to go across well, whether people are actually going to love it or not. Ambition, pride, all these things are hugely important with the team. And if you get that personality right, that is the magic in a team. That's the magic for production. That's the things that go into the game that make all the difference. So a couple of examples. Titanfall, I think it's the box artwork, actually. It's done by a guy called Joel Emsley. And for me, this is one of the things that really stood out about me when I was starting with that team is I went into the weekend, and everybody's on schedule. There's no challenges with production, but Joel is sitting at his desk. He's the only person in the office apart from sad old me. And he's working on this piece of art, and I'm asking him, why are you in? You can do this on Monday. And the reason he came in is because he just thought he could do better. He thought he just needed to do another 2 or 3 hours of work just to make that difference so that he was confident and he was proud of his own work. Now, Joel is head of the art department. He doesn't need to tell people what to do. He doesn't need to set documents or standards or sit down with the art team and tell them how to do things better. He just needs to show his work. He lifts the entire team around him because as an individual, his personality that spreads through the team is he's proud of his own work. He won't let anything go out that's substandard. And that is the difference between a good team and a great team, and that applies across the board, whether it's mobile, console, PC, Facebook games, anything. Ambition. So you'll find key individuals through your team. Big team or a small team, it makes no difference at all. This example is from a chap called Eric Craburn in the sound department. Incredibly talented guy, but there's many incredibly talented people in the industry. But what he did is he was incredibly ambitious. He wanted to, sound is sort of in the background and people don't really pay that much attention to it sometimes. But what Eric wanted to do is make it stand out, make it something that, whether it's a subconscious background track, he wanted to make sure, again, pride, that it was the best work that he could possibly do. So we hired 2 orchestras. We did all the voiceover work in Warner Brothers in Los Angeles, which was one of the best sound studios in the world. And in Abbey Road, where the Beatles here recorded a bunch of albums. Now, it's not about the quality that comes out of these things, because the Warner Brothers studio is where all the voiceover work for half the films are done. It's 24-bit, it's uncompressed, incredible quality, incredible acoustics. That's not the difference. It's the fact that, because it gets downscaled to 12-bit, 10-bit, whichever it happens to be, so we're losing all that quality when it comes to the final product. But it's the mindset behind it. Eric's not going to turn up to work and just wing it. If you go to Abbey Road or Warner Brothers or you've got an orchestra, it's the fact that he'll bring his A game. He'll make sure that he's going to be 100,000% prepared. It's going to push him as an individual. And you can find that ambition all the way through these key teams in the world, whether it's Nintendo or Blizzard or King or Supercell. You'll find people with ambition that in their own departments, in their own specific expertise, they will have ambition that will make a huge difference just by pushing themselves and stretching themselves. And again, with pride, with ambition, that spreads through the team. Not everybody has these attributes, but the key individuals within that team have it. Humility. There's two things with humility here. One is we wanted to make sure, the game director, a guy called Steve Fukuda, wanted to try and make a connection between the Titan and the pilot, the player. And we're just a bunch of mainly white dudes in Los Angeles. We know nothing about love and flowers and all this kind of stuff. So we put our hand up. We have no idea how to do this. So what we did is we brought in some of the best scriptwriters that we could find in Hollywood. So it's one of the chaps who does NCIS to come and help us with empathy, with character. And the flip side of that is that we knew we didn't have the skills. So we wanted that in the product, which again is part ambition, it's part pride, but it's also putting our hand up and saying, we're humble enough to say, we don't know what we're doing here. We have no idea how to make that connection in a video game. So we brought the skills in. And that humility you'll find within Blizzard again, who they're the first to admit what they're good at and what they're bad at. And all the great teams that will have that. And that is the difference, again, between a good team and a great team. Standards. All the way through the project, you'll find people who, whether it's a programmer, an artist, music, QA, standards are immensely important. And that's your personal standards, which reflects on the team personality overall, if you can find the right people. Most people send art packs out, and they'll do a couple of hundred screenshots, and they'll choose 10. We did the exact same thing that everybody else does, that everybody in this room does, everybody at the conference does. We put together art packs for magazines. But we did Vince Ampella, who runs the company, he is infamous within the company for this. He chooses the screenshots because he cares about it. Again, he has pride. He wants the ambition to make sure we have the best screenshots out there, the best art packs that makes the most impact when people look at the visuals. And we did 15,000 screenshots to choose 20. 15,000 screenshots to choose 20. Those standards all the way through the team. Some people have them, and they're in the leadership positions, but that lifts the boat. It lifts everybody around them. Trust is a tricky one, but it really comes down to the fact that we don't trust ourselves as a team. Blizzard don't trust themselves as a team. Naughty Dog don't trust themselves as a team to dictate what will work and what won't. So we would bring people in who have never played the game. Some of them have never played a video game, and they would play a level. They would get to the point at a level where you can go left or you can go right. It's not the final level. Looks pretty good, but it's not the final level. And as part of the narrative of the story, we want 80% of people to go to the left. And if we found out that the player went 50-50, we'd go back and redo it. We'd trust the player. Some people use eye tracking, which is what this is, to see where the player is looking, especially on mobile nowadays, to see how people navigate the user interface. But you have to trust the player more than anything else. If you show game testers the game and they say, yeah, it's pretty good, that means it sucks. Unless they rave about it, then you're doing something wrong. So one of the things that I think is very important to take from this, apart from trusting the player and trusting the feedback and reading into that, is get your technology stable early. So we had most of the technology locked down a year before the game came out, which allowed us to test, to play, to experiment, to change. And then we cut 7 levels. That's millions of dollars worth of work. Now, you don't have to throw millions of dollars worth of work. You don't even need to do millions of dollars worth of work. But what you do need to do is trust the player beyond your team, because you are way, way, way too close to have an opinion that really nails it. In fear, we're always worried about the competition. We're always worried that we're going to be one behind. We're always worried about Activision or Naughty Dog or Sony or all the great teams around the world. We're always fearful about what they're doing. We'd read the credit pages to see how we're doing in terms of size a team? Is there some edge that they have over us? We would always be paranoid, and we'd always be looking at other people's products. I think it's a passion industry. You're already in that. You're already doing that, I'm quite sure. But it's something that we were fearful of. Not just, oh, that's interesting. It's like, shit, there's something really good there. How did they do that? How did they solve that? Look at that transition, or look at the way the story fed into it. There's always something that you can learn. And we would come from a place of fear. So some of the problems that we had. You could go on with that list. You could come up with other personality attributes. You could find other examples. But those are the top ones, which is just caring about your work, having self-leadership, really digging into what the product is, how can you one-up the competition. Again, having an ego, but have it balanced by fear. All these things are important. But it comes down to, with very strong personalities. And just to underline, none of those details, none of those things that people did came from a producer. It didn't come from a document. It's something within the personality of those people. So Steve Fukuda, famous within the company there, he took 4 months to choose a font, which is ridiculous. Partly because he was too close to it, but also because the standards that he had, it had to be perfect. I have no idea how many fonts that he went through, but that's one of the problems when your standards are so high. And the job of production is to make sure that you shorten that by maybe having a little word to say, we're a wee bit too close to this. We can maybe have someone else make a few choices. Crunch to polish is how we used to describe crunch, which is coming early with the technology, and rather than crunch, if you want to crunch, hopefully it's optional, sometimes it's not, but make sure you crunch to polish. Make sure the key features are done way, way, way ahead of time. If you're finishing a feature off a month before the game comes out, you've lost track of your team. You've no idea what's going on. But crunch to polish is where the magic comes. It's where those tiny, tiny details come from. Excuse my language here, but bullshit ego management. With people who have very strong personalities, sometimes you have to take them aside if you're within production and just say, you're having a bad day, just take it easy. You're too stressed, take it easy. If someone is embedded in their opinion, maybe take them aside and to see you're being a little bit too overbearing. That is actually the job of production with babysitting, is you have to look at the team and where they are and how they're reacting to things. It's incredibly important to have that within production. Autonomy, as I've said, very strong personalities. We'll argue about features. Ultimately, the way to solve that is artists decide what the best art is. Programmers decide what the best code feature is. Leave it to the experts. Don't have a producer or someone randomly within the sound department talking about design. Leave it to the professionals in your team and let them scrabble it out. And standards, this is one of the hardest things. Standards makes it incredibly hard to hire, because when you bring new people into a company, and I'm not just talking Respawn, I'm talking across the industries, with mobile as well, is unless you have a way to on-ramp people into the company, it's incredibly hard to find people who have those talents. And HR is the key to that, and I'll come back to that in a second. So the summary of values here, which is build a team based on personality. Most people don't do that. They just base it on skills. This person can program, the artwork they do is great. But what are their standards? What are they proud of? If you're doing an interview, actually sit and ask about their personality, who they are, what their standards are, what they're proud of, what they would have done again if they had extra time. Hire on personality, because people can always learn skills, but you can't change somebody's personality, and that affects the entire team. And that's what makes your team great over just a good team. Find leaders who have pride. As I said with Joel, he didn't have to dictate to anybody what to do. They just knew from Joel's example that he made the difference because he made it in himself. That, again, lifted the boat for everybody. Detail-oriented on absolutely everything. Fonts. You name it, all the way through the entire product, including the code. It's not, the sort of example is if you buy a wardrobe or a chair and there's a splinter, it's not the fault of the chair. It's not because the game sucks. It's because the people who made it sucky. They left the splinter there. It's about the workmanship that goes into it. It's about the team. It's about the personality of leaving a splinter when they could have shaved it down and made it perfect. It's the exact same thing with a game. Quality, I would rather have 6 levels instead of 14 levels. Make sure you've got something that is bang on with quality. If you do 7 levels, amongst 14, people will just say it's hit and miss. You have to get it right and just do the quality and focus on it. I think Titanfall 2 is only 6.5 hours long, not 14 or 30. But it's, again, read the reviews. It's one of the best single-player campaigns that's been made, according to the reviews, and I'll let you decide yourself if you agree with that. And again, HR, I think human resources here, I think it's the key to most companies to get it right. And it's so undervalued within most companies because it filters people in. You do the interview as a programmer or an artist. I actually think human resources is a gatekeeper for the company, and that really needs to focus on giving value to human resources. But it's rarely done. And then we get down to the bullshit. I don't have Abbey Road cash. I don't have an experienced team. I don't own a company. That's all nonsense. You don't need that. A common example in mobile, we set up a company, a guy called Larry Pacey, put together the mobile team with Nexon and with Respawn to do Titanfall Mobile. I think maybe 3 of the teams came into the main office where we made the big games, the HD games, about 2 or 3 times. They were given the artwork, but they were given nothing else. Different culture, different people, different skills, different product, different platform, no crossover whatsoever. But Larry focused on the talent and the personality of the team. And they didn't have an experienced team. They didn't have loads of cash. It's a mobile product. The people in the company didn't own it. But they came out straight away and had a hit with Titanfall Assault, I think it was, and it won about 20 awards. That's the first time bringing random strangers together to make a game, but it had the right personality, which was focused on at the very beginning when they were building the team. So that's all these excuses you can come up with. It's all nonsense. It helps, but all it does is amplifies problems if you get it wrong. Mobile. I think that is the future. Console is really interesting. Console is huge, but people are only going to buy 4 games a year. And the good thing with mobile is it's early days. You don't need AAA artwork. Look at Candy Crush. It's not the best artwork in the world. Look at the top 15 mobile games. It's not actually at the level that console is just now. You don't need AAA artwork. You don't need an orchestra. Sound is in the background because you've got some really sucky handsets that most people turn off the music anyway and play music instead of playing game music. You don't need eye tracking because you'll be able to tell if you've got that sugary 30-second game loop straight away. So mobile is actually one of the easiest markets to crack if you get the right team with the right personality together, and I can't emphasize that enough. If I was 18 and coming to the industry rather than being in it for 30-odd years, I would be in mobile. I wouldn't go near console. I think the future is all mobile, which fortunately is where India in particular is, and China in growing markets. But what does matter, as I've said here, is details. I can look at almost any mobile game and tell you if the personality of the team is right just by looking at the product, because those details will either be there or not. And then a word on India. I think you guys have an incredible advantage in the world. You don't have, in the West, we think of Europe and North America. We think of a space game, and we think of Star Wars. We have this cultural baggage that comes with it. We think of a racing game, and we think of Forza. We think of Gran Turismo. We've got all this subconscious baggage that dictates what a product is. You don't have that here. You don't have that console baggage, the PC baggage that comes with it. That is an immense creative advantage for you here. It's a mobile world. It's so obvious, as I've just said, 350 million, 450 million handsets. That is an incredible market, whereas console and PC, the maximum addressable market is maybe 30 million if you're in that 0.1%. If you're an average console title, 2-3 million if you're lucky. 10 million units if you have a breakout. In mobile, you can make a huge impact, not just in India, but around the world. And the one in second last there, Incredible Untold Stories, I think India has a huge culture that hasn't been represented to people in Europe or North America that you could tap into. You've got stories, you've got color, you've got music, you've got all these cultural elements that can go into a product that will make what I would think an Indian product different. They'll make it stand out. And that's one of the key things when you make a product is what can you do to make it stand out? You've got stories, you've got characters in your history that you can dig into. Not Luke Skywalker changed to another name or a Ford GT changed to another car. But you have incredible stories that the world hasn't had. And I think just to be able to tap into that as a team and as a company down here, I think you've got a massive advantage. And thank you very much for listening. Sure, if there's any questions, we can do one or two.
Over here.
Hi there.
Hey, just wanted to give a shout out. Titanfall 2, fucking amazing game. Thank you so much for that. I really wanted to tackle the last point that you brought up about India and gaming. 2 points. This is the trend, what I've noticed, and kind of just like maybe have some partial disagreement. So if you don't mind me saying, as far as console bag is concerned, one of the top grossing games right now in India is PUBG.
Yep.
And that is clearly not just a mobile game first. Clearly that was a PC version that was brought over, and it just kind of exploded in the last couple of months. Now, obviously, Tencent being here, Tencent being who they are, will pump money into that. But not all of us really have that kind of experience to make that kind of experience yet. Like, it will take time. But one of the trends that I do feel is important in India is definitely multiplayer.
Yes.
So I do feel like in that case, not necessarily have to be console-based. The other interesting point which you brought up was stories. A lot of the games, especially again, looking at the top 10, not a lot of story focus there. There might be bits of narrative that's present, but as far as story experiences are concerned, especially on the mobile space, not seeing a huge trend in that. So those are just two observations I just wanted to point out.
I think stories, it's not just about local stories that can be put into a product. It's a worldwide market, as we know. PUBG, I think, is a game mode that has been copied a number of times. It may be a fad, it may fade off, but it's been executed particularly well. Again, the details in that product, it's not the best art, it's the details, with timing and the kinesthetic. But if you look at the characters, who knows what a hog rider is in Clash Royale? Who cares? But as a visual language, they've done a cracking job of it, and I think just purely from the stories, the background, the culture, I think there's a lot of visual language that you could use in a product that would be very digestible around the world. Again, the sugar that makes it a little bit different, I think you have the ability to tap into stories that I've never even heard of. And I'm super excited about that. Same with China. They've got a wonderful bunch of stories, very different market, it's very closed, that fortunately India doesn't have. But I think that's a key advantage to developers use to tap into that culture, those stories, the visual language, the auditory language, and then obviously work on the kinesthetic of the game, like how the game feels. But I just think that's a huge differentiator and a huge, something that can really make your game stand out. I don't think you need to go into a huge story arc, but I think you can tap into the culture. Hi.
I had a question regarding game production as a career.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm in my final year of undergraduation and I'm planning to pursue my master's in game production. How valued is the degree as game production alone, and what are the chances of me getting into a job as a game producer in the start itself?
Like any part of the games industry, I think there's a huge demand for production. I think the old school view of production is that production controlled the product, whereas really production is an insurance policy for working out when a product is going off track. And an experienced producer is someone who can deal with the egos and the personalities and help put that team together, which is more empathy and EQ instead of IQ. But it's certainly embedded within the team. It's a key part. It is a department within game production. And it's one of the most fascinating ones because production is the only people within the product that understand all the moving parts. In audio, you're so focused on audio. Programming, you're just focused on programming. People will obviously look around, but production is the only people that know the entire story and gel everybody together. It's the cement between the bricks. So I'd be all over that. I think it's a great place to go.
So can I start off my career? Is there a possibility that I can start off my career as a game producer, or do I have to go through some levels to become a producer?
A lot of people go through QA, but there's also some interim positions. There's project management. You can work in creative industries and move across. So there's a number of different ways you can get into production. It doesn't have to be from QA, which is the way that most people presume. If you have project management skills, Prince certification, Scrum, Agile, it all makes a difference. But more than anything else, it's passion. If I sit and interview 10 people, the people I'll hire are the ones who are passionate, who care. It's not, as I said, it's not just the skills. It is the personality, it's the pride, it's the care, the attention to detail. It's whether they notice what a difference is between a Mont Blanc and a Bic. All these things. Passion is key, absolutely key.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.